There's this weird thing that happens when people talk about horror manga. You'll hear names like Berserk, PTSD Radio, maybe even something like The Summer Hikaru Died. But then there's one name that always shows up: Junji Ito. His art is insane, his concepts are terrifying. He's the king of horror manga. But I never even hear his characters are amazing, his stories changed my life. And that's because, honestly, Junji Ito's work is all art and almost no substance. Let me be clear. Junji Ito is one of the greatest horror artists of all time. Not manga artist, not comic artist, horror artist, period. His ability to create disturbing imagery is basically unmatched. You look at something like Uzumaki, and it sticks in your brain forever. The spirals, the body horror, the slow descent into insanity. It's unforgettable. But once you get past that initial shock, what's actually left? Junji Ito's stories feel deep. That's the trick. They feel like they're saying something important, but most of the time they really aren't. Take Uzumaki again. It looks like a story about obsession, or maybe inevitability, or maybe how people spiral, literally and mentally, into madness. But the deeper you look, the less it holds together. Things just happen. Characters don't really react like real people. They don't grow. They don't change in meaningful ways. They just exist to experience the next horrifying idea. And that's kind of the pattern across almost all of Ito's works. Junji Ito's characters are bland. Like, really fucking bland. And it's not just one or two stories, it's almost all of them. Most of his protagonists feel interchangeable. You could swap them between stories and nothing would change. They don't have strong personalities, they don't have complex motivations, they don't even feel like real people most of the time. They're basically just cameras. They exist to show you the horror, and that works for a little while. But compare that to something like Berserk. Guts isn't just there to experience horror, he fights it, he reacts, he grows, he breaks, he changes. Or even Pun Pun, which people may say is not horror, but I believe it is. Pun Pun isn't just witnessing darkness, he is the darkness. His character is the entire point. Junji Ito writes like someone who starts with an image, not a story. I don't know how he thinks, but this is my understanding. What if people turn into spirals? What if a girl's face drives people insane? What if holes in a mountain were made specifically for you? And those ideas are incredible. But then the story becomes an excuse to reach that idea. Instead of having an idea serving the story serves the idea. That's why so many of his works feel like setup, weird event, escalation, disturbing image, done. There's no real emotional arc, no satisfying resolution, just horror. Junji Ito relies heavily on shock, and again, that's not inherently bad. Horror needs shock, but great horror does more than just disturb you. It sticks with you emotionally to your core. Think about why something like the Eclipse in Berserk is so impactful. It's not just because of what happens, it's because of the characters involved. You care, you feel betrayed, you feel helpless. Now think of a typical Junji Ito story. You're disturbed, but are you emotionally affected? Do you really care about the characters? Or are you just reacting to the imagery? And that's because the characters don't carry the story. There's nothing to differentiate one story from another beyond the concept. So it becomes a cycle of, oh, that's a cool idea, instead of that's a powerful story. So if his stories lack depth, why is Junji Ito still so popular? Well, it's because his strengths are just that strong. His art alone carries his work to a level most creators can never reach. The detail, the expressions, the sheer creativity of his horror concepts. It's insane. He doesn't just scare you, he makes you feel uncomfortable in a way that feels almost physical. And for a lot of people, that's more than enough. They're reading him for the experience. Is it actually fair to say Junji Ito has no substance? Or is he just focused on a different kind of substance? Because his work does have meaning. It's just not character driven. It's conceptual, atmospheric, almost like a nightmare. And nightmares don't have character arcs. They don't have satisfying conclusions. They don't make sense. They just sort of happen. So maybe Junji Ito isn't trying to tell deep stories about people. Maybe he's trying to recreate the feeling of fear itself. Even if that's the case, it still creates limitations. Because without strong characters, there's a ceiling to how impactful a story can be. You can shock someone, you can disturb them, you can even haunt them visually, but it's much harder to truly move them. And that's the difference between, wow, that was creepy, and I'm never going to forget this. Junji Ito is a master of horror imagery. A genius when it comes to visual storytelling. But when it comes to characters, to narrative depth, to emotional impact, he falls short. His works are unforgettable to look at, but not always unforgettable to feel. And that's why his stories often feel like all art, no substance. Honestly, maybe that's enough. Maybe not every story needs to be that deep. Maybe sometimes it's okay to just be disturbed. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, though different from my usual content. Join the Discord for the book club. It's free to join, and we started recording them and post them on this channel and also another channel, Mega Matthews 49's domain. Have a good one. Bye, adios.